Hello, beautiful humans. I hope everybody's well. It took me a while to figure out what I was going to talk about next, and I was kind of going through different subjects, and then I realized that it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I thought it would be really great to talk a little bit about mental health and how and what you can do for yourself if you're struggling, resources you could reach out to, and just talk a little bit about mental health within the trans community and why mental illness is so prevalent amongst us. Now, there is no one reason, and what might be true for some is not true for others, but I'm just going based on some things that I've read and my own experiences I'm going to share. So a lot of us, myself included, experience depression, anxiety, mental things that would be labeled mental illness or mental health issues around gender dysphoria. However, you don't have to have gender dysphoria to be experiencing anxiety, depression, and so forth. The other thing is that having the gender dysphoria is not a mental illness. Being transgender is not a mental illness, despite what some people still think. They're totally separate. But navigating the world as a trans person where you're constantly facing discrimination, barriers, seeing violence, experiencing violence possibly yourself, and seeing violence that other trans people experience can cause a lot of anxiety. It can cause depression. It can cause trauma. And so that is a large part of why it is prevalent amongst us. The other is if you're looking at younger people growing up in schools where you're being bullied, where there isn't a bathroom for you to use. I mean, even as an adult, I definitely get uncomfortable, depressed, anxious about bathroom situations. It's disappointing when I'm at a place where I would expect one. And it's anxiety provoking to make a choice and not know if I'm going to feel comfortable in that bathroom or if somebody might approach me because they think that I am in the wrong bathroom. So that contributes as well. The other thing is a lot of trans people experience mental illness, mental health issues, but they can't find affirming medical care. And also just in general, medical care that doesn't have to do with mental health, struggling to find that, having chronic health issues, just even needing to go for a checkup and not knowing if you're going to feel safe in a doctor's office is enough to make you anxious, depressed, and so forth, paranoid. And it's super stressful. And then when you really want to help yourself and you know that something might be wrong, to have to try and navigate on your own and not know where to go. There's so much stigma in general around mental health and mental health issues that it's such a big step to take and reach out and say I need help, but then to not know if you're going to be safe in the place that you reach out to. So that's very challenging. There's so much. There's bullying, there's abuse, there's rejection, unemployment. Those are all things that affect people's mental health. And some people won't seek help. I know for me, I've been fortunate for the most part. I do have providers as far as mental health goes that are affirming, but I definitely have waited on certain health problems that I have to find a doctor and to get the help because I was like, they're going to misgender me. They're not going to understand. Before I legally change my name, they're going to dead name me. And I'm putting my health on the line because I'm so worried about, how feeling comfortable, which is really important, but my health is important too. And it sucks in general that this is how I'm thinking. This is how a lot of people think. We can't even ask for what we need because we're so afraid of the rejection and the discomfort that comes with being in a place that isn't trans affirming. So that's a big factor as well. There's also therapists that have actually discouraged people who have gone to them and are transgender from accepting their own identity. They're trying to discourage them and convince them that they're not trans, and that's not really the job of a therapist. The job of a therapist is to listen and give suggestions, but not to tell you who you are and who you aren't. And I can speak personally. I was in treatment for something, and this was very close to me coming out and figuring out that I was non-binary. I was kind of on the cusp, and I didn't have the words. Sorry, my cat is here. I didn't have the words to say it. And I remember this one doctor said, "Logan, you have to decide whether you're a man or a woman." Well, I'm non-binary, so I'm neither. And to hear that at the time was not encouraging or comfortable. It was very stressful, and it definitely clouded my experience at this particular facility. I would never go back again, even though I'm sure things have changed over the years. It caused a lot of harm. So the other thing I want to talk about is that mental health issues, it's not a trans thing. It's very common. 1 in 5 people will experience mental health issues and struggle. But this is Tina. She's actually like my mental health support. Anyway, so 1 in 5 people will experience mental health issues, but in the trans community, it's 1 in 2. And out of those people, out of the 1 in 2, 41% from the most recent study I was able to find, 41% have attempted suicide. They've admitted. So now you've got people who actually came out and admitted, but I'm sure there's people who haven't admitted, and that's a large number. And then it gets worse when you're a minority and within a minority. So for people of color, for Black, Indigenous, Asian, and so forth, there's the discrimination you would face as a person of color on a regular basis, but then getting medical help, and then you add getting mental health care. It's just one on top of the other, and that's enough to really stress you out. Not to mention the fact that the violence against trans Black people is higher than any minority within the trans community. And seeing other people, I mean, I can't speak because I'm not a person of color, and I eventually do want to have one of my friends on to talk more about this and just in general what it's like to be a trans person of color. But to see the violence, to see people who look like you, who you feel represent you, being brutally attacked and murdered, and not being defended when such violence happens, and their lives not being valued, that is so, I'm talking about it and I'm upset. So I can't imagine like the pain and the trauma. And then to not have the resources, to not know where to go and not have the support that you need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about, or not talk, but I'm going to list a few resources that I found. Some I've actually used. And then I'll talk about them, and they will, at the end of this segment, I will have them listed. And please, if you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments below. Please like and follow me. And I will definitely answer any questions you have. I will help you do searches if you're looking for something. There's so much, there are resources out there. I just know that when you're in pain, it's hard to do the work. It's hard to, especially if you've been discouraged so many times, or you've come up against so many walls, or had so many disappointments when it comes to your mental and physical health care. It's exhausting. It is exhausting advocating for yourself. I know it is exhausting for me, so I can imagine there are a decent amount of people who are going to be watching this saying like, yes, it really is, or like, I wanted the help, but I just can't make the calls anymore. So the good news is there are resources like the Trevor Project. There's the Trans Lifeline. So that's a hotline you can call if you're struggling with anything, really anything. And especially, please, 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 if you feel suicidal, 911, Trans Lifeline, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Just please reach out, and I will have those numbers available. The other resources are so there's ANAD, ANAD, and that's for people struggling with eating disorders, as well as EDF, and both of those have groups specifically for the trans community, and even I think both of them do it. There are groups for BIPOC. So transgender people who identify in that umbrella. So basically trans people of color. And then if you are out of the country, so I thought about this as I was brainstorming, and I realized, well, not if you're watching, this doesn't mean you're in the United States. I am in the United States. So resources for you. The really cool thing is that the Trevor Project, they have something called Trevor Space. It's trevorspace.org, and I will also put that up. And so you can go there, and they have a list of resources, international resources for help with mental health. So that is another option. And then I'm just going to finish up with a very short talk about self-care and some things I do to help myself. And don't forget, please get to the end of this video, because that's where the resources will be. And I do want to make sure that people that are watching this have that information and can share it. Maybe it's not something you struggle with, but I'm sure all of us know at least one person. And in order to be a good support for that person, having this information and letting them know that they can come to you is huge. Check on your friends, check on your family. So some things I do, like, people are like, oh, self-care, self-care. Self-care is not going to cure your mental health problems. It's not going to eliminate your depression, anxiety, eating disorder, bipolar, whatever you are struggling with. But there are certain things you can do for yourself that are considered self-care that can minimize the feelings that you get as a result to certain mental health issues that you're struggling with. So some of the things I do is I will take a really long hot bath with a bath bomb. Sometimes I will sit with my cat. I'm super comfortable now. She's sitting on my lap, Tina. So if you have a pet, or, even if there's a local dog park that you feel comfortable going to, animals are great. Or if you have time and feel comfortable to volunteer at an animal shelter. So that's something I do. I will watch one of my favorite, or a couple of my favorite comedies on online or on TV. So watching something that's light and funny that will kind of get me out of the funk that I'm in temporarily, or just as a little distraction. Some people like to journal. I'm still working on that. I'm not I'm not a fan, but I'm giving it a try because I know it's helpful. Meditation, also another thing that I'm very, very slowly getting into. Meditation, yoga, exercise for some people helps them. For some people, it's an addiction, so that's where you have to be careful. But if exercise is something that you might enjoy, it's good to go for a run when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxious, or do a workout at home if you're not comfortable exercising out in public, which I can totally understand. Another thing is maybe having some kind of food item that you like, or something that makes you feel good, as long as you're not using it as a drug, as long as you're not using it like you would use alcohol or anything else, it's okay to treat yourself to something if you're having a rough day. Another thing would be if you have a book you like to read or something, or if you like to draw art, basically any kind of art form that maybe you enjoy, that is really helpful. I do like to go, sometimes I like to go on walks. Other things that you can do are, if you are somebody who likes to clean or organize, I know I don't, but sometimes I'll organize a drawer, and that helps get my mind off of things. So that's another thing you can do. For people that are into makeup and nails, sometimes just doing your makeup, sometimes just doing your nails gets you out of that funky place that you could be in, in that moment. Also, having supports, being able to maybe call or text, email a family member or a friend, but making sure you have at least 2 people. And if you don't, looking for if there's any local support groups, even if they're not mental health related, but if you have a TGNC center, LGBTQ, different, there's a lot of online stuff now. That's the one good thing that did come out of the pandemic, is that you can attend support groups in other countries, in other states, and there is a decent amount out there and picking up and they're just groups to be able to spend time with other people who identify as trans, gender nonconforming, non-binary, etc. So I know for me, having other people that have similar identities to me, or that at least like struggle with similar things, makes me feel less alone. So making those connections, and then some of the connections I've made, I've been able to text them and vice versa when we're having a challenging time. We need a little support. We want to run something by each other. So support groups are really good. I talked about food before, but also cooking. If cooking is something you like, or maybe it's something you don't do enough of, like giving yourself a little bit of time to cook or bake something. You know, maybe it doesn't work and you never want to do it again. Maybe you actually like it and it calms you down, or you feel really good in that moment. Another thing I like to do is like volunteer or donations. That's not something everybody's able to do or wants to do, but I know that's something that kind of gets me out of my head. There's a little food donation spot close to where I live, and I like to make sure that every few weeks, as often as I can, I get there and I drop some things off, and in that it makes me feel good to do something for somebody else. And it's a distraction from the things that weigh me down. Also, you know, if you're finding that social media, reading the news, watching the news, if you're finding that is triggering, it is always good to do like a social media cleanse, take a break. You can always go back to it. You don't have to like delete all your apps, but there's nothing wrong with taking that break. So that's something else I would recommend. So that's about it. I just want to encourage you all to really stay connected to your supports. Start to look for supports if you don't feel like you have a circle. It can be a small circle, but you know, have those people nearby. Don't hesitate to ask for help. I understand that it's hard sometimes to find the help that you need in that moment, as far as like a provider. But don't hesitate to call any of the numbers or go to the websites that I am going to list after this segment, and reach out to your friends, reach out to your family if you're really feeling like you're in crisis. And if you know people that struggle too, or in general, some people won't share. They won't share what they're going through. But if you think maybe somebody needs some help, or you haven't heard from a friend in a long time, reach out, tell them you're thinking about them. Sometimes you have no idea the impact it has, the positive impact it has on that person, especially if it's a time where they're just feeling really alone, nobody cares, nobody's thinking of them. That one little message can go such a long way. So stay close to your friends, your family, your supports. Look for supports. Feel free to message me. I'm here and I will provide you with all the necessary information. Take care of yourself, learn to love yourself and love others, and have a wonderful day.